That's right. Welcome in, welcome back, folks, to a Can the University of Notre Dame football program create a winning streak edition of the Always Irish Show? As always, everybody, thank you for being here. The program can be located on YouTube. Do it, subscribe if you haven't yet. I appreciate it very much. Give the video a thumbs up, helps in the search algorithm. Notifications on you, be alerted every time something rattles around in my brain. And I think you guys need to know about it. You don't want to miss it. Twitter, search bar, Always Irish Rat, Always Irish Inc. Emails, alwaysirishnd@gmail.com. Audio only, anywhere you want me, you can get me. Call in line 312-900-8815. Have your voice heard and seen. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 9 a.m. Central. 312-900-8815. Program it in your phone. Always Irish Radio. Here we are, folks. Another week in college football. Here's the deal. I don't need to tell you this. If you're watching this show, you're either a Notre Dame fan, a college football fan in general, or both. Here's the deal. Every single week in college football is do or die. Everyone. Smallest, shortest regular season in all major sports. You get 12 regular season games. Baseball, 162. It's just different. The smaller amount of games, the more weight each one carries. For now, when the new playoff format starts, it's going to be different, and it actually might help Notre Dame that every week isn't going to matter as much the way it does now, especially for a program like Notre Dame that doesn't have a conference championship opportunity at the end of the year. So when I'm looking at this, everyone counts a lot now. Notre Dame might be able to get away with going 10-2 in the future, losing their two biggest games of the year, making the playoff. But for now, every game matters, and you love it as a college football fan. Where Notre Dame's at right now this week is a major inflection point. It's a major inflection point. This game at North Carolina is going to dictate to us how realistic it is to think that we could get this thing on track, build some momentum, and make this season somewhat respectable for whatever's left of it. Or is this really, truly trending down to 4-8, 5-7, worried about all your recruits leaving? This is a huge test. It's a huge test. The theme of the week is simple as can be. Can Notre Dame build off and win? Period. It's that simple. Can Notre Dame take what they did that put them in a position to win last week's game, the positives of it, and build off it? And use those things that did work and helped you get a win, which isn't easy to do, just like Bayou Bengal Brian said. I'll give him credit on that one. It isn't that hard for us right now. Part of it's his fault, by the way. I know people don't want to hear it, but a part of it's our struggles now are his fault too. How much we could debate, and that's a whole different discussion. But he's a part of the reason we're struggling right now. You would have to not understand how college football works to disagree. He's responsible for all the personnel deficiencies and the reason that certain position groups aren't more prepared to play than they are this year. Those are Brian Kelly caused problems, Marcus Freeman's issues to navigate. That's just the way it is. But the theme is really simple. Can Notre Dame parlay that one win into two, build some momentum, tamp down the flames even more of all the concern of what we're doing this year? Can we do that? I have no idea. Nobody does. I have no idea. You don't know. I don't know. Tommy Rees doesn't know. Freeman doesn't know. Nobody knows. Because the way this team is right now, you don't know what's real or not real. You don't know what you could trust and not trust. Not just game to game, series to series. Series to series. you don't know what you're going to get from this Notre Dame team. And that is scary. Scary. All right. I mean, under Kelly, you got to the point where you kind of did know what you were going to get. And then we all got sick of that too. You knew you were going to get ugly games that beat the teams you should beat and then lose to the best teams you play. That's going to be your year every year. Sometimes that means 10-2. Sometimes it's 12-0 and in the playoff. That was what you were going to get at the end of the Brian Kelly era every year. And it was never going to change. You're going to beat the teams you should beat, but you know for a fact you're going to lose to all the other ones. All the other ones. All right? Upset special in the playoff, not with Brian Kelly, Notre Dame. No. And we got sick of that. We wanted something different. You got different because now you don't know if you can beat Marshall. Well, you know you can beat Marshall. You can't. And you just don't know what you're going to get week to week. But we think on the flip side, long term, when things get stabilized, there's some high-end potential in the back end. We just need to get there. Weird spot to be in, folks. Weird spot to be in. You just can't trust Notre Dame. I have no idea. I have no idea what you're going to get. I have just seen things all over the map so far. Ohio State's its own animal, hard to judge because how good they are and all that pressure week one. And then Marshall, you should have won and your quarterback got hurt. And then last week you won, but it wasn't pretty. Couldn't get a first down at home till the second quarter. It's all over the map, folks. You don't know what you're going to get. So on the Notre Dame end, wait and see. North Carolina, 3-0. I talk about momentum being real in college football. They're a 3-0 football team. Riding that momentum. They're at home. North Carolina is also really hard to judge right now. They score a lot and they give up a lot. But they played all teams right now that make it hard for me to judge what's reality. FAMU, is that Shamu's twin brother? FAMU, App State, Georgia State. And they won 56-24, 63-61 on App State, 35-28 Georgia State. Like 63-61 against App State. Wrap your mind around that. It's unbelievable, especially as a Notre Dame fan, to imagine your team scoring 60 points in one game. That's going to be Notre Dame's output added together at the end of the year at this pace. So to score 63, but you give up 61, it's just hard to decide where the reality is of how good they are and bad they are with numbers this out of control and wild. It's supremely intriguing to me. 63 is great, but the defense gave up 61. And that's the best team they played so far talent-wise, App State. You gave up 61. Against Shamu's brother, Tamu, only gave up 56 rushing yards, but 280 passing to Tamu. I don't even know what that is. Or is it FAMU? That's what it is. FAMU. Still don't know what it is. Florida A&M. I don't know. But I suspect they're not world beaters. So, App State. How much raw talent on App State's roster do you think there is compared to the University of Notre Dame? Ask yourself. How much more talent is on the Notre Dame roster than the App State roster? 288 yards rushing, 361 passing against North Carolina. If you want to tell me Notre Dame cannot be as good on offense as App State, shut the program down. It's over. Shut it down. If you're telling me you should expect App State to be better at offense than Notre Dame, even with Buckner injured, shut the program down tomorrow. Just shut it down. Make Notre Dame Stadium a museum tear out the turf and put old pictures and displays of Rockne and Leahy. There, put my shirt of Leahy up there and it could be a museum. But if we are at a point in our lives where App State has a better chance to move the ball and score on North Carolina than Notre Dame does, I don't know why we're even bothered doing this. And my entire life's mission is a failure then of doing this show and having it be my identity and loving it. What an idiot. It can't be real life, our numbers. They cannot be real life, our offensive numbers. They're off the charts on the negative. Can't be. Even with your backup, can't be this. It can't be what it's been. Can't be. Georgia State, 235 rushing. 288 App State, 235 Georgia State. If Notre Dame can't replicate these numbers on the ground, again, I don't even know why we're bothering. Like, what is going on in Notre Dame's recruiting and development if we can't get that kind of output? Georgia State, 235 rushing. App State, 288. Notre Dame's offensive line should be 25 times better than both of those groups combined if you take their best players and create an offensive line. There's no reason Notre Dame can't run the ball for 300 damn yards this week, it looks like. App State, 288, and they passed it for almost 400. Come on, Notre Dame. Now's your opportunity here to move the ball. They're bad at this. 61 points they gave up. If you can't run the ball this week at will, Harry needs to retire again. These lower level teams move the ball all over on North Carolina. I am not sitting there watching us not be able to do it. No, it's coaching malpractice. Something's wrong if we can't do it, but all these teams you can't name one player off of that had no 247 ranking can. Something's wrong. Something's wrong. Offensive football looks harder than it has to be when it's being played by Notre Dame. And I feel like half the fan base kind of like is so used to it now. We just kind of accept that the offense is going to always be a struggle. That is wrong. That is wrong. That is not how you play modern college football. I refuse to accept that good offensive football is as hard to play as Notre Dame's making it. I refuse. 100% refuse. So you have issues with, I guess, identifying recruits because they can't come in and play right away. And then some of them can't even wait and develop and come in and play. So how you're evaluating recruits is an issue. How you're developing talent once it's there is an issue. Specific coaching and then execution out there. You got problems with all of it. None of it's where it needs to be, especially offensively. So they can be ran on. They can be thrown on. They can be, and they have been, by teams not as much talent as Notre Dame. Notre Dame has no excuses not to move the ball at will. None. Telling you, though, you're looking at 361 pass yards by App State. Notre Dame's averaging 300 yards total per game. Total per game. It's not real life, and it's an unacceptable level of output. So somebody should tell Tommy in the booth, do your blanket job. Does that sound familiar, Thomas? Have you heard that one before? So something has to give here this week, folks. We have a bad offense. They have a bad defense. What's going to happen? Something has to give. I think resets this up like a mini OSU game plan. Try to run the ball as much as you can. Keep the ball. And that does two things to make your life easier. One is Drew Pine's best friend this year is if Notre Dame can figure out a way to be able to run the ball at will. That's his best friend. A new crop of receivers isn't going to show up mid-October ready to be wide open for Pine to throw to. No. So his best shot of support here to take the pressure off him is if Notre Dame can find a groove in the running game. I expect that to be the goal because Reese knows the passing game's a struggle, and he also knows he's looking at the same numbers I am, seeing all these other teams move the ball with ease against this defense. So that will help Drew settle in if we can run the ball. And then also, similarly like with Ohio State, the longer we have the ball, it's time North Carolina can't score. Can't score. I think that's the initial plan. And then from there, build off that quick, short passing game. That's going to be the plan. I know it is. It's the only plan that makes sense to both protect Pine and take advantage of North Carolina's weakness. You should be able to run the ball all over them. That's going to be the plan. Notre Dame's banking on being able to control both lines of scrimmage today, especially offensively in this ball game. All right. Now, what I need to see, though, is I need to see that short, quick passing game evolve a little bit. Every week, you got to find new wrinkles and different ways to get more guys involved, stretch the field a little more vertically. Crossers, you're going to have to. I get last week was a cluster. You just need to try and get by, find any way to win. Teams are going to start jumping those little out routes and all that. That's a recipe for disaster. You can't lean on that as your offense. That's a building block to further wrinkles in the running game that present more questions and challenges for a defense to have to think about and worry about and defend. So that's going to be the plan, folks. The recipe's simple. It's basically the Ohio State recipe again. Now, the benefit is this team is not Ohio State. So while they're at home and they score a lot, and they have a really exciting young quarterback that we're going to talk about that's fun to watch, it's not Ohio State. So while they play similarly, they don't have the talent of Ohio State, and their home environment isn't going to be what Ohio State was. That means Notre Dame's going to run with that similar Ohio State game plan, but they don't have to be quite as perfect to pull it off and win the game because North Carolina is not as good as Ohio State. But that is going to be the plan, and I get it. Run the ball, eat the clock. That helps Pine ease in, loosen up that defense, and then you got to try. You got to force some action to some other guys and downfield some new looks. I'm telling you, you keep throwing those little outs, that's a pick six running the wrong way if you keep doing it. Somebody's going to jump it, and that's going to be it. All right? So I understand why they're using that initially to get Pine easy completions, get the ball in space to Tyree and Estime, let them go. Love all that. Everybody needs to know, though, that's starting point, not an ending point. You need to evolve way past that. All right? Keep an eye on defensive end. Rucker, according to Pro Football Focus, fourth best edge rusher so far. Rucker on the edge of that D-line for North Carolina. All right? Oh, man, I'm telling you, there to be had. That defense is a sieve. You just have to play solid fundamental ball. You can't make dumb mistakes, penalties, turnovers. No. Be smart, dominate the line of scrimmage. Everything else will open up for you. That's Notre Dame's offensive plan this week, and they should be able to do it. It's not like I'm looking at Ohio State's defensive front saying, I don't know if Notre Dame realistically is going to get any movement and win that battle. No, you need to road grade this week and make life easier on your quarterback, all right? Make life easier on that guy. Here's where things get interesting and, quite frankly, extremely frustrating for me. North Carolina's quarterback, class of 2021. You pull it up on the website, listed as a freshman. So far this year, in his first time as starting quarterback, 56 points, 63 points, 35 points put up. 15th in yards in the country. 11 passing touchdowns, tied for number one with C.J. Stroud at Ohio State. 8th best QBR in the country, 89.5. Class of 2021, folks. Listed as a freshman. Think he sat a year. First time starting. Moving the ball with ease and scoring. It's not that hard for all these teams. It's hard for Notre Dame. It ain't that hard for other teams. This is the guy's first time starting. 11 passing touchdowns, 15th in yards in the whole country already. 8th best quarterback rating. True freshman. Well, not true freshman. Moving the ball with ease, scoring 60, 50 points. Oh, John, that's not fair. They didn't play good teams. Marshall isn't good either. So, oh, well, yeah, but you're saying that about Marshall, but our guy isn't really the starter. He's the back. Doesn't matter. Shouldn't have looked that bad against Marshall no matter what. Run the ball. O-line, do your part. Like, no, this is just not okay. It's just not okay. But Brian Kelly convinced you that this kind of production wasn't possible here. It wasn't. Brian Kelly had you convinced both these things couldn't happen. One is recruit a guy good enough that he could compete and play right away. Or sit a year as a redshirt year, learn, and then come in and be really good right away. Brian Kelly made sure he let you know neither one of those were possible. So those are two things he put in your ad that weren't possible. Recruiting a guy good enough he could play right away, or recruiting a guy good enough and developing him that he could sit a year, and then when it is his turn 1 year later, he's good right away. Kelly convinced you neither of those could happen. And he also convinced you that even just longer term, when you ease in guys later, they're not going to develop in a linear way, straight up, get better with Kelly. He convinced you none of that was possible at his tenure at Notre Dame. Just because he couldn't do it, he put it in your heads that it just couldn't be. It's like, well, why can't this young quarterback see the field? Well, he's young and he doesn't know all the reads yet, and he's just quite not physically ready. He's not consistent enough. You heard that from Kelly all the time. He leaned on that as an excuse to justify why his guys weren't ready. Well, they're young and they need to develop, and consistency, don't know everything yet, all this stuff. He leaned on that. And then the media and everybody just said, oh, okay, that makes sense. Where I'm the other way. Kelly says that to me, and I say, whoa, wait a second. You might be right that the guy's not ready to go yet and can't do all that. You might be right. But that makes you look bad too. That's not an excuse. Kelly said it like a get off the hook excuse. No. My next question, if I'm the media, and Kelly says, oh, this guy's young, a lot of potential, not ready to go yet. Then I'm asking, why are young quarterbacks all over the country able to do this either as true freshmen or freshmen after a red shirt, go out and score points and move the offense all over? But you don't have that at Notre Dame. That's the follow-up question that never gets asked. You're saying these guys aren't ready. That means you're not developing them right, or you're not recruiting guys good enough to begin with. So either way Kelly spun that, it makes him look bad. You got young guys and they're not ready. Well, then you're not developing them quick enough, or you recruited guys that have so far to go, it delays the whole operations development anyways. So no, if you keep finding a position where your young quarterbacks can't play and contribute early, you're not recruiting good enough young quarterbacks and you're not developing them well enough. Notre Dame is never accomplishing any of their big picture Freeman goals without an elite quarterback. It's never going to happen. It ain't. So it is beyond frustrating to see a guy from the 2021 recruiting class, not at Alabama or Georgia or Clemson or Ohio State or USC, at North Carolina, comes in, scoring 60 points, throwing the ball all over. Kelly had you thinking that could never, ever happen here. And it's sickening that so many people bought into that. If that's the case, you're not recruiting good enough, so you get an F on that. There is no wiggle room here. Either way you want to go, it's a problem. So, hate it. It drives me crazy seeing young offenses move the ball and young quarterbacks look fine. And we're over here hoping after year 2 and 3 and 4, guys cannot be bad. Something's wrong. Something's wrong with Notre Dame's quarterback recruiting, retention, and development. Something's wrong. And we're not winning jack till it's figured out and fixed. I don't care the name. Give me a guy. North Carolina also has a true freshman wide receiver. Pacehour, 14 catches, 172 yards so far. As a true freshman going on the field and playing good football, getting open, catching passes, throwing to him by the quarterback. You know, a real offense in college football. True freshman, folks. Josh Downs, their best receiver, got hurt week 1, has been out, is coming back to play us. This young kid, Pacehour, true freshman, out there right away making plays. You're telling me Notre Dame can't recruit any guys that could do that? You're wrong. That's what I'm trying to get you guys to understand. Notre Dame's been doing things wrong. It makes no sense that a place like North Carolina has these young quarterbacks and receivers that play and contribute right away. Makes no sense, folks. Kelly tried to convince you it wasn't possible at Notre Dame. It is, but you got to be good at recruiting and development, and we're not. We're not, or we haven't been, at least. But here's an example of a freshman quarterback, freshman receiver making all sorts of plays. And we're over here, and our freshman guy we want to see could barely even get on the field. I don't understand. Oh, they need time. Not if you recruit good enough, guys. They don't need as much time, right? There's no wiggle room. You're wrong no matter what excuse. It comes back to you not doing something right or good enough. I'm sick of it. So Josh Downs will be back. They have another receiver out that'll be back too. So they're trying to load up on full strength to play Notre Dame. Defense, this is your week. They've been scoring a lot. I need havoc. I need turnovers. I need batted down balls. I need all that. North Carolina scored a lot of points. They have not played anybody with the talent of Notre Dame. They haven't. Maybe you could catch North Carolina thinking that they're feeling themselves, and now they've had 3 weeks against inferior opponents compared to Notre Dame talent-wise. Maybe you catch them thinking life will be easy and you go in there and beat them up, right? But Defense, now's the time. The defensive line did come to life a little bit last week. Half dozen hurries, 6 sacks, 8 TFLs, couple batted balls, close to some turnovers. You need more of that. Defensive line did a better job against the run. There were still a couple issues, but 112 yards you could live with. And here's the other test this week. The other test this week is the defensive line disappointed the first 2 weeks, came to life last week. I think we can all agree so far the secondary has been a fairly pleasant surprise. They have not been the main reason you're looking at them as us having all these struggles. They're going to be tested this week. This team throws it all over. So those fairly good vibes we have about that secondary so far, not being like a huge obvious red flag we're talking about front and center, that's going to be tested. So defensive line, continue what you've been doing with all the havoc you can provide. Flip fields, short fields, turnovers, whatever. You have to help this offense because they're not good. You need to help your offense. Secondary, prove what we think you are. Pretty decent in that you can hold up. Here's what I need this week. This truly needs to be the week these linebackers for Notre Dame show up. They have been the most disappointing part of the defense overall through 3 games. They don't shed blocks. Like, they're not disruptive. They don't get home when they're going to do something. When they do get there, they miss. Like, I just feel like we all expected that group to be a lot tidier than what they are. This needs to be the week we see that group tighten it up. Put together a full-scale 3-phase defensive performance and win the day. Win the day. So, again, I feel bad. We always default to asking the defense to win us games the last handful of years. Here we are again. I just can't trust the offense to do it. I can't. So defense needs to win the day. Havoc. But offensively, I'm painting the picture pretty clear. All of these teams with 1/10 of our talent score and move the ball on these guys. If you can't, I don't know where you go from there. If you can't do that against this team that hasn't stopped anyone. So use your little miniature Ohio State offensive game plan, grow off it, but you should be able to run the ball, eat up a ton of time, score, get off the field on defense enough times to win this game. It isn't going to be easy. I don't think it's going to look pretty. But that offensive line needs to win the day. And in that defense, this is your week. Get a couple turnovers. These guys are coming in feeling themselves. We're 3-0. Shock them a little bit with your talent, speed, and athleticism you have compared to all the other teams they're used to playing. All right? So this is a huge week. Are we going to try and salvage the season and build some momentum to respectability here? Or are we going to drop back to Marshall style and we're starting from scratch all over again? Big questions this week, and I need big answers in the positive column. Talk to you soon, folks.